and roll music right here on the Lucia Show. And one of the great rockers from the past, Lyn Rowe, certified financial planner, my guest co-host for the next couple of segments. Hey, Lyn.
Now that's an introduction.
What happened to the long hair and the weird outfits? Although I used to have a leisure suit that looked a lot like what you're wearing right now, by the way. And a huge medallion chain.
I believe that.
I think you ought to put a microphone on. There you go. Hey, I was reading Market Watch early this morning, as a matter of fact, and Sally Brandon wrote the 5 mistakes to avoid when planning for retirement. You have been a huge retirement planner. Well, you're a tiny retirement planner, but you've done a lot of it over the course of your lifetime. Been in the business for many years, but you're not old.
We're doing old and short
Yes,
so far.
old and short jokes. Let me run through a couple of these
Okay.
and get your opinions on them.
All right.
And sooner or later we'll talk to you about what you want to talk to me about. Number 1, it says not calculating how much you'll need in the long term. You know what's surprising? It's really not surprising to you or me, but the Employee Benefit Research Institute tells us 56% of Americans haven't even so much as tried to figure out their retirement savings needs.
Goodness. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me, actually.
And it ain't that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do it on my little handheld calculator here in about 3 minutes, just to get a cursory idea. You don't have to get down to the gnat's eyelash here, folks. But you ought to have a general idea how much money it's going to take for you to retire, and calculate out how much you've already gotten that will take you to that point, and there'll be a deficit, and then plug that into the calculator, and it will tell you how much you have to save. For the example, just last week I did that for Bobby. Mm-hmm. And Bobby needs to save, I think it was $15,000 or $18,000 a year.
Okay.
It's a lot of money for a young
ton
man,
of money.
but he's an ambitious young man and wants to have a nice retirement someday. And we were being conservative. I asked him if he wanted to be conservative with his numbers. And sure, if you plug in 12% returns, you don't have to save nearly as much as if you plug in 5. Number 2, this is something you understand very well. Understanding the cost of health care and long-term care. Here's what they say in this article. As of 2014, the average couple in the United States spends more than $200,000 on health care throughout retirement. And then they go on to say, in 2013, the average cost of a private room in a nursing home was more than $94,000. Assisted living, $41,000 a year.
Today's dollars. Now, the question I have, Ray, the 2 things that you pointed out, the healthcare costs do not include long-term care, do they?
No.
Yeah,
No,
so
that's
this is
just
over and above those healthcare
It's
costs.
over and above. I think Fidelity quoted somewhere in the $230,000, $240,000 range, plus the cost of long-term care.
And the American Association for Long-Term Care Insurance says that there is evidence that you can reduce the health care costs by making sure that you cover the long-term care costs through long-term care insurance.
And why is that?
Because you get better care.
You get better care. Interesting.
Yes.
Number 3, taking Social Security too early. How many retirement clients have you had in your umpteen years in the business that refused to listen to you and said, I need the money now. I'd rather let my 401k or my IRA grow. I'm taking my Social Security.
Yeah, more than I want to admit.
They actually believe they can invest the money over that extra 3 or 4 or 5 years, whatever the delay time was, better than what you can get from an inflation-adjusted annuity from Social Security. It's 76% more money from 62 to 70, and I dare say you would have to invest that money very aggressively and be extremely lucky that for the next 20 years of your life, you'd be able to outpace what Social Security would give you.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Now, paying too much in retirement plan fees. You know, they always throw this one in. As if a 401k participant can do much about the 401k fees.
Right. Well, that's not something that we can do much about. I mean, that's built into the plan.
although you have done a lot of in-service rollovers for people that are 59 and a half, explain what that is.
Well, an in-service rollover, the government allows you to roll your retirement plan from your employer over once you've reached 59 and a half to an IRA. Then you can have control over things like the cost of planning with those dollars and what you can do with them and the way you invest them. So it gives you a lot of latitude and a lot of flexibility.
And then finally, not diversifying or rebalancing your portfolio. Now, this is a two-edged sword.
Right.
Because I have made the case, I just did in my first segment, that you don't really need to be diversified between stocks and bonds. You just need to be diversified amongst the various different stock assets, if you will, international and so forth. Mm-hmm. But bonds over a 20-year period, I don't know if you heard my monologue there.
Part of it.
But bonds over a 20-year period have basically never beaten stocks in the U.S. looking back in history on an inflation-adjusted basis. Never.
Right. Well, people use them as an income generator, but they also use them as that safety hedge in their own minds that they are protecting some of the portfolio. And as you pointed out, having that diversified portfolio can provide you with a lot of safety hedge over and above the bonds.
I even take issue with the income generator part for a couple of reasons.
Especially right now.
Yeah. Number one, you ain't getting much income
Nope.
in a bond, especially a government bond portfolio. And I have concluded that over most time spans, not all, but over most time spans, if you simply spent down principal from a cash account, or I used an annuity earlier, like a fixed annuity that won't have a downside if interest rates go up, might have an upside, by the way, then you could spend the principal out of something like a fixed annuity, buying you time to allow the stock market to do what it's done, not only here, but they looked at something like 100 other countries around the world, and in virtually somewhere between 97.8% of the time and 100% of the time, bonds were a waste.
Well, for many years, Ray, we used fixed annuities and continue to use fixed annuities as that way of producing income and also providing safety in the portfolio. And it has been just a wonderful asset in the portfolio because you know that you know that you know.
Yeah, and of course, nobody wants to talk about insurance companies because you guys get paid commissions and all that stuff. But the fact of the matter is, if you operate under what I call a full disclosure mentality, you can really do some good for a client, especially during times of low, super low interest rates, possibly going higher in the future.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right.
All right, I love it when I'm exactly right. When we come back, I want to focus on this number 2 here, underestimating the cost of health care and long-term care. You want to really mess up your retirement? Don't plan. Don't do any planning. Don't hire a CFP. Do it yourself and ignore one of the most important components in a financial plan. Which components are they? Lyn Rowe will tell you all about that when we come back. Don't go away. 844-RAY-SHOW if you want to chat with Lyn. I'm Ray Lucia. Stick around.
Ready to rock and roll.